All right, this is for the great Mr. Eric Kong, and it has been a continued pleasure to coach him. Hopefully, we are friends for a long time. Let me get the light behind my back. So it's been a trying time for me trying to take care. Let me see. There we go. Maybe is that better? Okay. Uh, Taking care of my family, but hopefully Eric's doing well and his lovely family, brilliant family.嗯，他姐很聪明，他父亲就是母亲很聪明，就是一个Schwede, very handsome family too. So, and hopefully I'll be back with my family here shortly. So, just waiting on Eric. This is always for his benefit. I'm Cliff Tom, and it's coming up on 8 o'clock in China too. China 8 o'clock evening and 8 o'clock in America. So that's it. There he is. There's my man. Oh, I gotta change this Zoom. Zoom is kind of bizarre, kind of funny. What's happening?
Oh, yeah, it's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. What's going on? You look really cool, man. I like the outfit, the hair.
Yes, the outfit is just our school uniform, and recently, maybe, yeah, yesterday afternoon, I just got my haircut.
That's good, brother. That's good. You've gotten so much bigger, man, since we started our first lesson. So that's great. That's good. That's good. So how was school? How was the end of school?
Yes, we finished our final exam maybe 4 days ago, and we have just started our winter holiday now.
Yeah, the lunar, right? Was it
Yeah.
stressful? Was
Mm,
it stressful the end of the term?
Yeah, at the end of term, I was not too stressful because we all get prepared for the exam and we learned a lot online for online classes and
Right.
both for classes in the school because right before the exam, maybe 4 days before the exam, we went back to school instead of having online classes.
Right. My wife tells me the virus is it's getting better now, right? So it just had to go
Yeah,
through.
the virus is getting better and weaker, and we are also able to get against it. But we have found a new virus in our city, and
I
uh,
know, I know.
yeah, the name is pretty strange. It's called XBB.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. I don't, again, we've talked about this, you and I before. So I think eventually it's going to take time to get like, when you're younger, you take the flu shot, you take all these shots. So I think eventually science will create a shot that will, protect us from all this. But it's still new, right? This is still a new
Yes.
thing. So all right, excellent. All right. Perfect, man. I think now that you have some time, I would also like to help you with especially if you're still interested, right, when you finish high school to study abroad, or wherever you want to study, but your English academic writing, right, which is a different skill than IELTS writing. You understand?
Yes.
Right. For IELTS, it's more it's like academic essay, not paper format. It's just a different way of formatting your work. So you've got a lot of time to study for the IELTS, right? And if you keep going the way you're going, Eric, I don't see why you would not get a perfect score for speaking, right? But just, everyone can improve their writing. Even if you're Chinese, you can improve your Chinese writings to where you're tofu, right? To where you're a
Mm.
master. It's impossible. So, but I can help you also with your academic writing. So if you do decide to go to a university, right, a native English university, you can also everything, even maths, right? They say maths, right? Americans boo yes, boo s, right? We don't say s, but even in math or maths, you will still need to write in English maybe why you came up with that answer, right? So that is academic essay writing, which is a little bit different than IELTS, right? So it's two different formats. All right, brother, let's jump right into it, man. How are your parents doing? How's your mother and father?
Yeah, they're good.
Good. All right, good. Are you tired today? You seem like you're tired from the end of your school.
So maybe earlier I am very tired from after the final exam, and I get really tired of the whole term. But recently I get some relaxed and played basketball outside.
Cool.
Now I don't really feel tired in my heart, but physically I feel tired because
Yeah,
it's
no.
just your muscles.
You
They are hard. Yeah, they are hard to.
right, right. Do you feel like when you're studying, do you put pressure on yourself, right? Do you put stress, like, do you want to do really well, or do you feel like it's outside factors that compel you to do well, or do you really want to gyal? Do you really want to do it yourself?
Mm, yeah, same for both, but there is not too much pressure when I study something.
Right. Okay, good. That's how it should be, right? Like with my son, I want to drive and compel him and motivate him to do well, but I want him to do well, right? I want him to want to do well. Does that make sense? Right.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. All right, Eric. Good. So why don't we so how many weeks do you have for the winter festival? 2, 3 weeks?
Not 3 weeks, maybe at most 2 weeks, because we'll
Okay.
start the next term on the 29th or 28th of January.
Okay. Well, if we'll after at the end of this, why don't we we'll assess what you should do. Why don't we should do something fun, right? So something entertaining that you really like to do, whether it's but something that is academic too. So maybe if you want
Yeah,
to read Mahala or Malala, was that her name? Malala.
yeah, Malala.
Did you like that? You like that book? You enjoyed it?
Yeah, that book is interesting, but yeah, it's both challenging.
Good. Challenge it. Well, as long as it's interesting, if you enjoy it, right? So let's
Yeah,
especially on your holidays, you should do something that you enjoy. So maybe that will be the homework is to read a certain chapter and then we'll just stick with the one page, right? Maybe write a one page I'll give you we'll think of a good question about that book. All right, fabulous. All right, this is kind of irrelevant how it looks because again, I don't know. Ooh, I changed this, Eric. You like that? I changed this. Hongsu, I changed it to red. All right, so it's irrelevant because when you go into IELTS, they're going to have their own format, right? So it doesn't matter how this is. Obviously, the question is going to be the question, and then again, this is all important, right? The words, because that is one thing that is not subjective, right? I think I've asked you this question before. What's the difference between objective and subjective in academics?
so the word objective, you can distract it from the word object. It's like there is a certain answer, I think, and the other word, it depends on what you think. It doesn't have the only answer. So to
Wow,
different people, you can answer
fabulous.
it differently.
I liked how you thought about that. I'm going to give you 110% on that answer, Eric. That was fabulous. Right. So, what studies are you taking that are objective?
I think for maths, physics, and biology, geography, most of the questions are objective, while there are a little bit of them. Uh, yeah, some of it is not objective, which you could give a lot of answers, but the answers you will have to get restrictions.
Fabulous. I would totally agree with you. However, right, yin wei, the civil right. However, we also know that many arguments, many new mathematical theories, you've had to argue, right? You have to prove
Yes.
them, right? So they could be at some point subjective, but then they become objective because there is no doubt, right? It's black and white, yin yang, right? You're
Yes.
right or you're wrong. So that is more of an objective, but you are definitely correct. Those are more in the objective side or field of academics. Now, what are subjective, class?
Um, for subjective, I think most of the subjective things are in Chinese, but in Chinese we have 150 score tests and maybe 50 points of the test is objective, which you have the only answer. And then the left 100%, it is uh, it is belong to your reading and your poems and your essays, which we can say articles you write, and they are subjective. And to English, it is 140 points, and nearly 50 points are subjective, and others they are objective, which you choose the answer.
Okay, fair enough. You're going, but so then what is French, Italian, Japanese, Chinese, English? What realm or what group is that called? Just your when, right? So what are they?
Um, Language, I think.
Languages, right? So exactly. So I would think languages, though, for the most part, are subjective,
Yes.
right? So you can argue that. Like sometimes I really enjoy studying big Chinese words. But when I speak to, 我会啊，或者是一个东北农民人, right? If I speak to a farmer or something, they were like 听不懂, right? They don't understand what I'm saying. And then I don't understand what I'm saying either, right? Because I'm a 我是一个外国人, right? I'm a foreigner. So that is subjective because I think I know what I'm saying, but they have no idea, right?
Yes.
So that is the languages are subjective, right? But math is more objective because you can argue it is either right or wrong. Okay. So anyway, so I'm sorry that took forever, but because this is definitely the only part of your IELTS exam, Eric, that is going to be objective, right? So if you do not have at least 280 words, they're going to mark you down, right? They're going to deduct points. That is the
Yes.
only thing that is relatively objective. The rest is just your words, right? This is a language. This is how you feel about it, right? So, all right. Anyway, so how many words did you come up with? Did you test yourself?
Yeah, I tested it. It's maybe around 310.
Really? All right. Let's see, my friend. I believe you. Let's see. On that word count, where is it? 315. Fabulous, Eric. All right. So we don't have to worry about that. All right. Let me see your handsome face. There we go. Okay. Come on. This is my computer sticking. All right. Baba, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? So what kind of essay is this, Eric?
It's yours. It's a yin yang essay, which you give two sides. It's a compare and contrast.
Yes, compare and contrast, right? Yin yang. Yes, very good, very good. All right. So young people today have no influence on the important decisions that determine the future of society. Ooh, as a whole. Ugh, I don't like that, right? Because that's a preposition. They could have changed that question a little bit better. All right. So young people today have no influence on the important decisions that determine the future of society as a whole. So they're kind of leaving the door open for you to say, no way, right? They
Yes.
do, right? So use specific reasons and examples to support your answer. Fabulous. And you passed the 280. All right. So I kind of remember what question it was. All right. Oh, I do not like starting sentences with a preposition, right? So let's and this is all important. That first one, right, Eric, is I want to make that red, not red highlighted. Now it's confusing me because I've got it in black. So this is right, A number one, because again, right, this is the first thing, the first couple words, and then the first sentence that they're going to read. Are they going to be interested, right? So right off the bat, if they're not interested, they're going to be kind of disappointed reading the rest. All right. So with the development of our society, people nowadays are living a stable life. Yet There are lots of aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. All right, that's pretty good. I get it. I understand it. But I think grammatically, right, you can switch the parts of the sentence to sound better. So how could you rephrase this, Eric?
Um,
Oh. I like it. I just think you could switch the parts of it, right? So let's consider right this apart. So with the development of our society, let's consider this another part. Let's consider everything between the commas as a
yes.
part of the sentence. So how could you switch and maybe change a couple words to where it sounds better, right? To where it's a hook, right? We've talked about a hook to where it draws you in, right? And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Let me keep reading, right?
Mm, So I think with the development of our society, we should not put it at the beginning. We should maybe we can move it after the second part. People nowadays are living a stable life.
Ah, very good, my friend. All right. So let me cut this. All right, let's see how this sounds. So people nowadays are living a stable life. That could almost be a sentence, right? And it's
Mm,
not really a lead into sentence, but you're emphatically stating this, and then we're kind of moving on. So you can say people nowadays live. You can be emphatic about this. So people nowadays live a stable life, even though it's a preposition, but that's fine. Okay, now how would you go about changing this sentence? That continues to draw you into your argument, right? That children or that young people do have an impact, or whatever your argument, whatever side you're arguing.
um,
I kind of like it, but maybe we can make this a little bit better. I do kind of like your sentence, but so people nowadays live a stable life. First off, I don't even know if you need with, right? So you could just do the development of our society, and then how could we change? How could we change this to then make the sentence intelligible, understandable, right?
um, I think it should be changed into human beings need to discuss and yeah, discuss about a lot of aspects, but it's just human beings need to discuss and form policies.
Okay. I look, I get it. It's just about matter of making words, right? Any language, Chinese, anything, right? Make them read better for the average reader, someone that doesn't know what's going on, right? All right, so let's read this again really quickly. So do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Young people today have no influence on the important decisions that determine the future of society as a whole. Use specific reasons and examples to support your answer. This is such a British way of saying this. Americans we would not include as a whole. All right, so people nowadays live a stable life. The development of our society, I would say I would just change this. There are many aspects of life. Yeah, I wouldn't say development. I would just keep that out, in my opinion, right? So
Mm,
I would say people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects. you don't even need life, right? Because it's, what is that again in English literature? When you use it too many times?
Redundant.
Yes, right. So it's almost redundant now. And it's a preposition, right? Of life. So I would say people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. Fabulous. I think that sounds better. Again, it's up to you. I don't know. I feel it sounds better. Okay. So it is a common belief that they cannot affect. Okay, so again, when you're doing like for IELTS, or you're doing an academic test essay, sometimes the first sentence wants to be your crunch, or your hypothetical, your hypothesis, right? What you're trying to prove or disprove, but it doesn't have to be, right? Generally, it should be, though, within the first 3 sentences, okay? So you're declaring this. You're saying people nowadays live a stable life. Good. All right, great. There are many aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. Great. I would think anybody would agree with you on this, right? And then now this one must be your argument, right? So you tell me, what do you think? Are there, in today's world, are there people, do young people have influence on important decisions? Yes or no?
Yeah, so what I wrote in this essay, I said they have great influence on determining the future.
Okay. So then now, Eric, this sentence, you need to state that, right? Why? Because we haven't stated that in the first 2, right? So you really need to state that now. Okay, so it is a common belief that they cannot affect the significant. Perfect. See, I didn't even read that. So excellent. That was great. So you did it. Okay, so it is a common belief that they cannot, but who cannot? You didn't state that, right? Who cannot?
The young people.
Yes, right. So you want to, again, read the question and answer it directly. So then how would you phrase it to answer the question? How would you rephrase it?
Yeah, so I think the third sentence, it isn't my point of view, and I think the last sentence in the paragraph is what I think. It's the opposite from the third sentence.
Ooh, okay. I didn't know that, because it can be read or determined that this is what you believe.
Yeah, it's just to
Okay.
form a contrast.
All right. Well, let's do that. Let's switch it. Let's just switch it out. So now you know. So switch it out. And this is why we record our sessions, right? Okay. So people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. I think that's good. However, there exists the perception that young people are the future of our society, and they have an influence. That's kind of a vague, right? To say something is vague, right? Because you're vague and or ambiguous, right? So what do those 2 words mean?
It means not really clear.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of unclear. And again, for IELTS, especially for something like IELTS, they want you to declare, right? Do you agree or disagree? And then why, right? And prove it. So how could you rephrase this to make it more clear?
Um,
In your,
I,
right, you are arguing this, right? Eric Kong is arguing this.
yes, however, there exists the perception that young people um can influence our society.
Okay, I wouldn't say, because again, this is your opinion. So let's just chop that off, right? Because you're kind of saying, well, other people feel that way, right? So you're kind of being a mystic, or being vague or ambiguous yourself, right? So you need to, right when you read this essay, when you're taking the IELTS, you need to say, okay, well, I know it's going to be yin yang. It's going to be one or the other. They want one or the other from me, Eric Kong, right? So young people today have no influence on the important decisions that determine the future of society as a whole. Yes or no? What do you think? It's yes or no, Eric?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go. So then how would you change this to say, yes, I do think young people have determine the future of society or make important
Yeah.
decisions? How would you change it?
It's just in the next sentence. The next sentence is what I share my view, and this sentence is just a contrast between now it is a common belief and however the young people.
Okay, I get it. I get it. And I'm seeing this now. All right. So people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. However, young people are the future of our society and they have an influence on global topics. Good. Again, that's just my preference. It makes one a better writer not to use prepositions at the end, but we talked enough about that and you can do that on your own, now. So, all right, in my point of view, youth should, there's many ways, right? And your English is so good, there's many synonyms for young people, but I'm not sure youth. What would be another way of saying young people where it's not boring, but not youth? I wouldn't use youth.
Um, like young generation.
Yeah, in my point of view, yeah, you could even elaborate a little bit more. Today's young or younger generation. So, again, you're being vague yourself, right? Should. So young people today have no influence on the important decisions. No. So they want to know, do they? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. However, young people are the future of society. Good. You're still leading into your hypothetical. I would try to, just a note, I would try to put your crunch or your how you feel within the first three sentences. That's my, in my perspective. But here you go in your fourth, right? So people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. However, young people are the future of our society and they have an influence on global topics. I think that's good. That will give you high marks. In my point of view, this could be hyphenated. That depends. And why do we hyphenate that, Eric?
Mm. I remember that the first reason is because um like uh it's like a whole thing and you can read it up together.
Yeah, it's basically it's said and thought more quickly.
Yes.
So if you say, in my point of view, right? So it's generally more quick. Again, it's not good. I don't think they'll deduct points for you not doing it or doing it, right? It's just a preference thing. Okay, so in my point of view, today's younger generation, again, this is very vague. You are writing in vague terminology. So how could you change this to say, yes, they do make decisions in our world? How could you change that?
In my point of view, today's younger generations, um,
I would just you could really just change the verb.
yeah, we take part in, we can also get rid of this word and
How does this one sound, right?
yes.
Right. So you're being more emphatic. You're saying yes, right? They want to know, do you agree or disagree? I agree. I agree that people, oh no, I disagree, right? So I disagree. I think they do make important decisions, right? All right, so let's read this as a whole, your intro. All right, people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. That's great. I think it's good. However, young people are the future of our society and they have an influence on global topics. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you need, however.
Yeah, at first I use however because I put the last sentence in the paragraph, which is it is a common belief
Okay.
uh, before it.
So you don't even need, however, because you're not switching anything here. You can just say, so people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects for human beings who need to discuss and form policies. Young people are the future of our society and they have an influence on global topics. Good. In my point of view, today's younger generation does take part in determining our future. Great. Good. You're stating what you're going to argue now, right? So it is a common belief that they could not affect the significant decisions decide society's future. Okay, I would cut this, and if you really want to include it, because you've already have 1, 2, 3, 4, those are pretty good. I would put it in the middle, right, to do the comparison. Okay, so people now, oh,
Yes.
you would, Chung. So people nowadays live a stable life. There are many aspects where human beings need to discuss and form policies. Young people are the future of society and they have an influence on global topics. Good. It is, right? Now you're excellent, Eric, right? So now you're debating the other side, right? What the other side thinks, but then why you are deciding that they do make decisions, right? So that's good. So it is a common
Yes.
belief that they cannot affect the significant decisions that decide. You can say our future, right? Because I think you've already used society. Right?
Yes.
Just change it. Our future. Okay. In my point of view or opinion, right? Many different ways of saying that. In my point of view, today's younger generation does take part in determining our future. Good. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So now, again, IELTS essay is a little bit different. So now you're just arguing. Right. Now you're just arguing your point of view, right? Within these two paragraphs. Okay. Yeah, we've got 8 minutes, so that's perfect. Okay, so many people argue that younger generations are too young and immature to influence important decisions. This is kind of an incomplete sentence because because you're using many people argue that young generations are too young and immature to influence important decisions, right? But although, right? So what right? What is the opposite of this that you would need to complete that thought, that sentence?
Um, yeah, I think
You could use
many
this.
people argue they shouldn't, and however, many others, say that they do need to take the role.
Okay, good. I'm a fan of semicolons. Um, that's kind of an elevated it's kind of an elevated way of writing. But I'm just going to include these with you. Maybe you can start using those more. Okay. And then I'll explain those to you. Okay, a semicolon is exactly that, right, Eric? It is semi. What's another word? What's a synonym for semi?
Um, I think. So are you saying the
Bar.
SCMI one?
Well, right. In Chinese, ibar, iban, right? It's half, right?
Yeah,
Semi means half, right? Half. So that's exactly what that means. That it's a half sentence and a half comma.
yes.
Right. So it's a different type of art, a different type of writing. But I would include that here, right? Because you're really not, you haven't finished your thought with this sentence. And then you can now go the opposite way. You see what I'm saying? To finish your thought. So you can say many people argue that young generations are too young and immature to influence important decisions. Now it's for you. Although, what, Eric? Although,
Mm, although many other people suggest that young people are able to influence these decisions.
okay, let's read that. Okay, so many people argue that young generations are too, again, right? What is this? To use young twice?
Redundancy.
Redundant, right? So you can just use immature. So many people argue that young generations are too immature to influence important decisions. Good, semicolon, right? Although other people, right? Because why? Redundant, you've used too many times. You've used many too many times. Although other people suggest now you can use youth,
Yes.
right? Because that does, then you're and again, IELTS, they want you to show, right? They want you to show how many English words you know, right? To really show off, right? To how much you've been studying, how many English words you know, right? So other people suggest youth are able, Cliff, bad spelling. Other people suggest youth are able to influence these decisions. Ah, that's pretty good, man. So many people argue that young generations are too immature to influence, although other people suggest youth are able to. Again, we're using influence too many times. What's a synonym for to influence? What's another verb, another way of saying that?
So I think when we have the are able to, must add an are, and if we do this, we cannot prevent this. So I think we can maybe change the are able to.
Yeah, you could say many people argue that young generations are too immature to influence important decisions, right? Although others, you could say others, but other people is fine. Other people suggest youth. You can say these youth or youth. Youth is fine. Youth are able to change. I like change decisions. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of funky, right? It's kind of quarto, kind of right, a little bit strange, but that's all right. Sounds okay. All right, let's move this up. All right. So many people argue that young generations are too immature to influence important decisions. All other people suggest youth are able to change decisions. Yeah, that sounds all right. And again, it's kind of like you have to look at it as art too, right? Writing in any language. Okay. So it kind of fits well. It looks good. It might not always read perfect, right? But that's part of the illusion, right? If you want to read something that's like, wow, it looks beautiful before you even understand the meaning, right? That's why I love like Chinese and Japanese and Korean, right? Because it can be in many different ways,
Yes.
right? Wow, it's beautiful. All right, it grabs my attention. And then you try to read it. The same in English, right, man? The same in any language. So, okay, so many people argue that young generations are too immature to influence important decisions. Although other people suggest youth are able to change this. Change them, right? Because now we know them are decisions, okay? So they suggest that experience is based on the accumulation of time and lessons. And lessons. You could say lessons learned,
Yeah.
right? Lessons learned, and young people have little experience. That's a good sentence. Okay, again, Eric, I would get out of the habit of starting a sentence with so, right? Do never, in my opinion, start a sentence with so.
Yeah.
Okay. You could say other people or others believe youth youth are unable to comprehensively evaluate. You don't even need because that eludes, right, with evaluate.
Yes.
Others believe youth are unable to evaluate society's condition. All right, we only have like a minute left. Eric, you're a good writer. I mean, I would give you on IELTS, right? So if it's a band score of 9, I would give you a 10 for speaking, right? I think you're phenomenal. You're a great speaker. For writing, I would give you at least a 7, which is still better than, the average student is, will maybe get a 6, 6, not even, right? That's a good score, I would think. Our goal is to get you to at least like an 8. A 9 would be, I don't think it's so hard to get a 9, I think, in writing, from an IELTS. That's very difficult. Some are really good writers, and then some are very good speakers. It's hard to be both. But our goal is for you to just be, sit down, just be boom, 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 at least get an 8, at least get an 8.
Mhm.
All right. So for this, as long as we know, like, you've got to make this,